Hey everybody, Sammy here at SFI Sports Cards, back with another video. Today is Friday, October 13th, and we are into the Halloween season. So on a side note, if anyone knows of any good Halloween content as far as streaming shows or movies to watch, please pass it along to me in the comments. Now, I've seen many of the popular, I guess, scarier movies, mostly the older ones. So, like I said, if you have any recommendations, let me know. I love a good scary movie to watch along with friends and family. And speaking of scary, Friday, October 13th, we've got some birthdays of some players that were downright frightening to face. One, Hall of Famer Eddie Matthews. His birthday, October 13th, he was born 1931. Showed this card in my last SGC reveal. I didn't reveal this card, but it was the Ken Boyer, so check that out. Also, here's a guy that was no fun to face. That is Hall of Famer Trevor Hoffman. He was born October 13th, 1967. And last, although I do not have a Playing Days card of his, I do have a photo real quick. And that is Hall of Famer and lefty strikeout king Rube Waddell. Someday I will acquire a Playing Days card of his. So I've always been a big fan of the countless wild and wacky stories about him. So there you go. Birthday's out of the way. But today's star attraction. The fourth card in my SGC submission is someone that we all know who is a perfect fit to reveal during this time of year. A baseball Hall of Famer with a personality larger than life, and someone who saved his greatest moments on the field for the biggest stage. This card comes from my favorite set of all time, mostly due to nostalgia, but a set that really kicked off my interest in the hobby when I was a kid. This set is one that is filled with plenty of star power, an extremely popular crop of rookies, and Prospect USA cards. Excited about this one, and I've been putting off looking at the grade for a couple of weeks, so let's go ahead, take a look at the 1985 Topps Tiffany of Mr. October Reginald Martinez Jackson. Now, the backs of these 85 Tiffany's, they just give me, I guess, speaking of this time of year, give me some goosebumps because it brings me back to my childhood and all the memories I had ripping these packs. It was the first set that I really paid attention to all the information given. We got the player bio here at the top, which also includes, when he was drafted. You can see right there. in 1966. Also, how and when his current team acquired him. As you can see, free agent 1982. Personal details at the bottom. This one says he owns a collection of rare and antique automobiles. And if you check out the documentary simply called Reggie over at Amazon Prime, it does show his love for cars and classic automobiles. Very, very good documentary. Highly recommend it. But yes, these backs, when I was a kid, I used to write on them all the time for the regular release of 85 Topps, making all kinds of notes on them when I would go through these statistics. Now, kids nowadays, they buy cards and barely even touch the physical card, because it's either already slabbed for them or they just don't treat them like we used to back in the day. We used to bend them, throw them at each other, trade them at school, carry them around in shoe boxes, pockets. I used to shove them in my socks, in my sneakers. But I wouldn't trade how I treated my cards back then for anything. It's what we did back then. So, as you can see on these Tiffany's, besides the obvious card stock is different, which I will show quick here in a second, but Topps Tiffany versus Topps, the regular base set, and you got the Topps Traded versus the Topps Traded Tiffany. As you can see on this card, it's pretty simple. Now we have this at the bottom, copyright or trademark, whatever you got here, Topps Chewing Gum Incorporated. But that's about it. But if you see, like on a regular card, here's one right here, one of my favorites from my childhood. This 85 Eckersley, Well Loved. Now you can barely see, but there is an asterisk. It's kind of worn, but it's right there. Looks like the bottom left part is worn off. But we got the same card, same player I should say, in the Tiffany. There is not an asterisk there. So that's how you can tell the difference between a Tiffany and a regular base. Besides, the card stock is obvious. But also, the Topps Traded release. Here is a Vince Coleman rookie card. Topps Traded. Shout out to Andy over at D's Collection. Link in the description. He is a Cardinals fan. So on the back of these, you got the double asterisk right there. And now as far as Topps Traded Tiffany, I did find one in my collection. As it is posted up back here. It's a manager card. Billy Martin, this is the Topps Traded. There's a T, and this is a Tiffany because there's no asterisks anywhere on the card. But obviously you can tell, just if you have it in hand, it's easier to tell just by the gloss. If I can capture it here on camera. So, it's easier to tell in hand than seeing it on, let's say, an eBay site or an auction house. But that is how you tell the difference between Tiffany's and non-Tiffany's. Now recently, Tiffany Cards, their account on Twitter X, has probably shown 5 or 6 cards over the past week that PSA is graded and labeled as Tiffany's, but they're obviously not Tiffany's. Just from the card stock alone, you can tell. A couple of them I've seen, there's a couple Frank Thomases out there labeled as Tiffany's. 85 Roger Clemens, 87 Bo Jacksons. So if you are planning on buying a Tiffany, do not buy one unless you are shown the back of the card, graded or not. It's better to be safe than sorry. But with that being said, let's get on with it and see how this card graded out. It does look a little narrow at the top, but it's the back of the card, so let's see how we do. We score a 9, which is pretty much where I thought we would be on this one. This card looks amazing. So basically, you can't really tell. It's not any narrower on the front. Maybe slightly from left to right. But the centering looks spot on. Love this card design. So the tops, there's the logo right there. Doesn't take away from the card. It's kind of like has its own area right there. The angled team banner at the bottom. And look at this California Angels logo. Just awesome. Big fan of these Angels cards in the set. Love the red over the blue. It's like it's not quite aqua, more like a powdered blue. Maybe a little darker. And then you got the yellow that just gives it that, extra punch as to who the player is. And of course the photo itself with the trash bag sleeves, no flap on the helmet, dark blue jerseys with the white pants. I really do like this uniform, and I'm not sure how often they wore it in game, but I've seen retro uniforms of this style. I like them. Now, you might see some marks on this card. And I caught it when I first bought it. But right here, there is a dot right there. You can see that. And inside this logo bubble, there's a mark right there. Now, these I found on, I believe, every Tiffany Reggie Jackson that I've looked at. So, shouldn't have taken away from the grade. They're on all the cards. The Tiffany versions, anyway. So, but yes, I'm very happy with this 9. Usually when I buy graded Tiffany's, I try not to go any lower than 8. So this 9, just great. Very, very happy with it. But as far as Reggie, I mean, you guys all know who he is. Second pick overall, 1966 draft out of Arizona State. Who was the first pick? That was Steve Chilcott. He was a catcher picked by the New York Mets. Never made it to the major leagues. He's one of 3 players to be drafted number 1 and never make it to the majors. The other 2, Brian Taylor and Brady Aiken. Jackson is the all-time leader in career strikeouts. And, at least at tells you he had a lengthy career. But yes, he was always looking for that home run. MVP in 1973. One of 5 times he finished in the top 5 for the award. He's a 5-time World Series champion. He also got a ring last year as special advisor to the Houston Astros. Twice he was MVP in the World Series. Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson are the other 2 to win it twice, but Jackson is the only player to win it for 2 different teams. Once in Oakland and once in New York. One of 5 players to be named League MVP and World Series MVP in the same season, joining Koufax, Frank Robinson, Willie Stargell, and Mike Schmidt. He's the first major leaguer to hit 100 home runs for 3 different teams: Oakland, New York, and California. And here's a crazy stat. He's the only member of the 500 club to never have had consecutive 30 home run seasons. Which I would have never guessed that. So, if you ever run into any trivia questions about that subject, Reggie Jackson is the answer. Now, Reggie was a center of attention when it came to the media. Teammate Tommy John thought this ultimately helped the team in his tenure in New York. Here's a quote from John. He was a two-way buffer between the team and Steinbrenner, and between us and the press. That allowed other guys to go about their business in relative peace. Now, that quote was kind of amusing because Jackson had several spats, let's say, with teammates, most notably Yankees, Thurman Munson, also Billy Martin. So, relative peace is an interesting way to put it. But to me, Reggie is one of those players that he doesn't have any bad-looking cards. Probably because he knew where the camera was at all times. But I like all the images on his cards. This one, no different. So, glad to have this terrific card in my collection. But with that being said, thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the 1985 Topps Tiffany Reggie Jackson grade reveal. Hopefully, you'll stick with me for more upcoming sports card content. I have one more card to show from this submission, and I'm very excited about that one. One from a set that is not shown very much across the community. So stay tuned for that. But everyone stay safe out there. Have a great weekend. We have a Final Four in baseball starting Saturday. And I read this earlier. This is the lowest total of wins for the combined 4 teams left in history. But I'm very excited to watch these matchups. Rooting for Texas, and to be honest, either Arizona or Philly I'm fine with. What I do like about Arizona is that they're a young team, and that gives them that national exposure to introduce us to new stars and see what they can do in big games. So, should be, 2 great series. But we'll talk soon. Take care. Enjoy your weekend. And we'll talk soon. Be safe out there.